Every time I'm doing something that is not essential, I'm giving up on something that is essential. Greg McKeown. My friends, we have tried to hone down on our charts everything and make sure that we have honed it down to a razor's edge so that we are using the things that work. That is the price percent oscillator, the derivative oscillator, the moving averages that we use to be able to see where these different trends are falling, the 50 period, the 200 period. We have the Bollinger Band set up. We use Heiken Ashi candlesticks. We use these things because they work. They help us to see what's happening. Let's jump into these charts. We see stocks down for the day around 1.5%, both on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. 20-year bonds up 1.02%. Gold, I'm in a gold trade right now. Boom. Gold up 1.82%. Quite nice. And Bitcoin a flying. If we look at the Bitcoin futures XBTF, and the reason we're not using this to track is it only started in November, October. And so we don't have a long track record with it. That's why we're using the New York Stock Exchange Bitcoin Index. But depending on what you look at, the futures are around around 5.25%, 5.5%. We look at Grayscale Bitcoin, which this is a trust that owns Bitcoin. It's up 4.63. New York Stock Exchange Bitcoin Index up 7.8, but we're going to use this chart because this chart works. Although the numbers, it's only reported once a day, so that's why the numbers are at times skewed. It balances back out for the chart, but again, it can make it difficult on a daily basis. Things are going to get better again as the futures market develops, as we get some time in grade with the three futures ETFs that have been approved, BITO, BTF, and XBTF. I've been trading XBTF. Why? Well, it has the lowest expenses of the three, and it's an ETF. It's not a Grayscale Bitcoin. It's not a trust. So I feel more comfortable with a closed-end futures, short-term futures ETF. So that's why I'm doing that. Now, let's jump into these charts. We'll start with the S&P 500. We have a solid green spinning top. That's a slowdown in the down movement, even with what's going on around the world. What had been plunging last week is not plunging this week. Price percent oscillator still headed down. Derivative oscillator still quite negative, losing some downward momentum today. You can really just sort of see a sideways slide. See that doji right there? That is lots of indecision. First day of this latest 2-day candle. Price percent oscillator still heading down in negative. Derivative oscillator is about flat now going into the 5th day of that. So again, things sliding sideways. What we see on the half-day chart, where things moved up and over the last 2 days, sliding sideways and down a little bit. Still positive, price percent oscillator flat, derivative oscillator positive, losing upward momentum on the half-day. So still have overall down mood in the S&P 500. Of course, that's those 500 big mega companies that represent a lot of the market. Now we move into the tech sector. It's down about the same for the day, 1.5%. We have a green spinning top right there on the weekly trend line. Price percent oscillator still going down. Derivative oscillator negative, losing some downward momentum. 2-day chart. Again, 2 spinning tops. The latest, this is 1 day of a 2-day candle, so half drawn, we would say at this point. Still negative, price percent oscillator still negative and flat. So again, sideways slide. Markets are just sort of hanging around, maybe seeing what is going to go on in the crazy world we live in. We look at the half day about the same as what we saw on the S&P, popping up and sort of sliding over down. Price percent oscillator flat, derivative and positive, derivative oscillator positive, losing some momentum at the end of the day with that downslide. That's where we are on stocks, sort of in a holding pattern there. Now, what about bonds? Bonds heading up. We see the price percent oscillator is negative but heading up. Derivative oscillator negative, losing some downward momentum. Green candle is forming. If I move that out of the way, you can see it. Well, you got a plethora of things crossing over, but you can see that green up candle with a long wick on top. We'll now head to the 2-day, and I moved it, so I've got to adjust it back to where it was. We had that 2-day crossover going up most recently. It's not a 2-day recross because the weekly's still going down. But bonds bottomed out most recently there on Wednesday the 16th, so mid-February, and then slowly started ticking up, finally crossing over on that 2-day back on Monday the 28th. Price percent oscillator heading up, derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum, half-day chart. You can see 2 solid days of up movement after some sideways sliding and down on 20-year bonds. So that's where we are. Weekly is still down, so overall mood is still down. We do see a change there in that intermediate chart, so keep your powder dry. Let's see which way that goes. Gold. Gold is moving up 1.82%. Now we had that 2-day recross most recently. That was a recross going back in the direction of the weekly, heading up back on Friday the 18th of February. And of course, going into the second week of up movement, hitting a higher high. Nice to see price percent oscillator going up, derivative oscillator going up. I'm happy to see that happening because I'm in gold right now. Look at this 2-day chart. You can see first day of the latest 2-day candle after some indecision on the prior 2-day candle, resuming that upward bound. Price percent oscillator heading up, derivative oscillator gaining upward momentum. And we look at the half day, we can see again where things had peaked most recently back on Thursday, the 24th of February. Then we saw where things went down and then sort of bottomed and started moving up and really accelerating, crossing over on that half-day chart in the afternoon, going up on Tuesday. Nice to see. Like to see gold doing that. Now, Bitcoin, what do we see going on there? Well, Bitcoin is just sort of sliding along. It does have a green up candle for the week, but again, price percent oscillator still negative, derivative oscillator still holding on to some negativeness. Hopefully, this will just continue to move up, and we'll see that price percent oscillator in the coming days, probably not by the end of this week, unless there's some real booming on Bitcoin. And with things going on in the world and Bitcoin's volatility, one never knows. But hasn't crossed over yet. Do have a green candle forming for the week 2-day. We had that bounce off back on the 2-day candle ending the 24th of February. And then, of course, as we Friday and then starting this week, bounding away. And, of course, first day of this latest 2-day candle, a booming up. Nice to see price percent oscillator gaining a little green. Derivative oscillator gaining a little green, price percent oscillator pulling away from the red signal line, and we look intraday, we just see things just moving up strong. So that's nice. Again, Patreon members, we put out for you a little early this week, Charting Crypto, since we have our live Patreon question and answer session tomorrow. If you've been holding off making that decision about being a Patreon member and you want all those benefits like the special training, Options Made Simple, the Charting Wealth Way, which we send immediately to you, 3-part series that you will love if you're interested in options at all, along with the Charting Crypto once a week, the 20 weekly vertical crossovers once a week, and then once a month that live question and answer call-in session. Patreon members, if you can't join us, don't fret. Go ahead and send your questions in, the stocks, ETFs you want us to help you backtrack for practice trading. We'll try to go through those for you. We always endeavor to record all of the sessions and then to send those out to you. So even if you can't join us, we'll try to get your question and your ETF or stock in for some backtracking, get it recorded, and get that out to you. God bless, my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters. Follow the link in the show notes. If you're interested in Patreon membership or just check us out on Patreon, look us up as Charting Wealth. God bless, all the best from the whole team here.